Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. I am here in the great area of Dry Creek Valley. You heard me. Right behind us is the valley. We are right near the town of Healdsburg, which we love here in Sonoma County. I come across great wineries every now and then that just really stand out to me. You know, they're boutique, they're new, they're interesting, and they make amazing wines. One of those wineries is Flambeaux. This is one of those brands that, 10 years ago, it wasn't here. And the reason it's here makes it so great, too. As we will find out with our great proprietor right next to me, Art Murray. How you doing, Art?
Doing well.
Thank you so much for bringing me up here. This is amazing. Dry Creek is a very special place to me, and I know that you really love it here, but we'll tell that story in a minute. I grew up here. I got the lucky privilege of growing up in Russian River Valley, but we would come here all the time because of the beauty of this place. But it was a little bit different back then when I started coming here because the dam wasn't built and the lake wasn't there. And now we have Lake Sonoma in this area too. Another
You're
person.
not that old, are you?
Come on now. If you carded me, I'd be very happy. That right there is Ryan Prichard. Another California native, actually of Berkeley, California, who went to Cornell University and did something very similar to me. Wasn't going in that direction, but fell in love with wine, and here you are.
Absolutely.
So, the great winemaker, Ryan. Ryan, you and I met a long time ago. You were at Williams Sellium. You did Medlock Ames, and then we really got into it. Just fun things that we did together with Three Sticks.
Absolutely.
And now here you are with this amazing brand.
Yeah. No, it's been great. Been here with Art since the beginning, 2014, and stretching the Zen and Cab muscles over here, and we're here at the estate. So This is, what a more beautiful spot to grow grapes and make delicious wine from.
I agree. We're at about 400 feet right now. The thing is, the story of this brand, this is the most interesting thing that really got me into it. Flambeaux, what does it mean? Torchbearers. And the torchbearer connection here goes back to where you came from and your family came from, which is the New Orleans area. Right there, Louisiana, special stuff. Tell us a little bit about your lineage there and how the heck you got here.
Yeah, so our family has been in New Orleans. At least my mom's family has been in New Orleans since the beginning, since Iberville and Bienville landed, pretty much. So, wow. A lot of history, a lot of legacy there. We love where we're from. We're here now. We consider ourselves Dry Creek Valley natives, right? But no, when it comes to New Orleans, we miss it, and we love food. We love wine. New Orleans is a very food-centric town, very wine-centered town. A lot of French and Spanish history. So we wanted to do a little bit of a tribute to that with the label. Flambeaux are the torchbearers of Mardi Gras, as we discussed. They're sort of a part of the party now. They announced that the parade's coming, and it's a little bit of home. And Flambeau means torches in French, so a double meaning. We have 3 generations making this wine, so it's sort of passed the torch, and we hope that there'll be many passes to come.
Absolutely. So your mom and dad are lawyers. Your mom was a judge, and you're a lawyer. You had a moment when you were maybe even underage, when you had a moment with cuisine and you tried wine with it.
Yeah, I did. I was joking earlier. My first real experience with wine, I was at a restaurant. We were having a law firm party, a Christmas party, and they just didn't pay attention. And I had a glass of wine in front of me with some very good food from a restaurant called Arno's in New Orleans. And I actually, at a very young age, appreciated, maybe a little too much, I appreciated what wine and food, how they really work together. And I think all of our wines they have that in mind. Ryan is excellent at having a wine work with food, not against it.
Right.
Thinking about the food that we like when he makes these wines. So, what would a Chardonnay do with a big buttery fried dish from New Orleans? You don't want it to compete with it. You want it to work with it, and I think he does a really good job of it.
I do too. We will talk about that in a moment. But, your family came here in really basically in 2012 originally, just to kind of just look at the place. Get a part of, be in wine country. And you came here, and then 2 years later, you're purchasing this property that we're on.
Yeah. No, we fell in love, and I think it was easy to do because you had a great food scene here. You obviously had the wine. We're from New Orleans. I didn't want to lose the characters that you have in New Orleans, and sort of obviously the music and the culture. And came here, and it really wasn't a far step. It, for a small town, which is what I wanted, I still had a lot of the same things, and it was an easy no-brainer move. When we found this property, it was in a VRBO, so I figured, okay, I'll have that. That'll pay the mortgage for 30 years, and then I'll retire here. Well, it was 3 years later, and we were here full time.
Amazing. So it's just I came up here. I tasted these wines with you on this property. It's a very special property. It's hillside. We're up here. We're looking back at the valley. We're not really super high. Some of the other vineyards that you work with are very high. Up to 700 to 1,000 feet.
Yep. This
is just that right little point here. You've got Cab on this property. You've also got Zinfandel, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But you've only got so much space here. You wanted to create a brand which you launched in 2014 that really represented Sonoma County. And I thought that was so interesting, a boutique brand that really represented this area from people that just came from somewhere completely different, and they're getting to know it real fast. So they got Ryan, and to me, Ryan is someone that's worked in all these areas that we're going to be tasting here. And you have a lot of great, experience working with these vineyards, and he was a very good asset to get.
Total serendipity, for the record.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I interviewed one person, and I mean that in the best way. I loved him, and we're similar age. He's a little younger than me, but similar attitudes. We try to have fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I think Ryan makes a serious wine, but doesn't take himself seriously, and it's one of my favorite things about him. He just does the job and is proud of what he does, but the wine speaks for him.
I agree 100%. Yeah. This is about quality. It's about detail. It's about yumminess, too, you guys. So the first wine that we're tasting here is the Flambeaux. This is a 2020 vintage of Chardonnay. This is from one of the San Giacomo vineyards. A lot of you might have heard San Giacomo, the name, on the shows that I've had in the past. This is actually right from, it's from kind of near Sonoma State University. This is Roberts Road, right?
Yeah, so it's half Roberts Road and half Keyser Vineyard.
Yep.
So the goal with this wine is to really kind of get two expressions of Sonoma County in one glass.
Right.
You've got the Roberts Road, Petaluma Gap, Dijon clones, really sort of mineral focused. And then you go to the Keyser side, which is Wente clones, Sonoma, Carneros area, where we're getting a little more richness.
Yeah.
So it's not full-blown richness. It's not full-blown minerality. You get a little bit of both in one.
Yeah. San Giacomo's own over 1,600 acres of vineyards. They are the greatest farmers of this whole county. They are an iconic family. We all love them. But why we love them so much, they grow great grapes. And to be really honest, they've been pioneers in so many different fields. Night picking, just, really getting in there, tight spacing, really working with the Wente clone. The Wente clone is the classic clone of California. It's about 75% of the Chardonnay grapes out there are some version of the Wente clone. What I really love about this wine is it's so beautiful, but it represents both areas. So it's both sides of the mountain.
Yeah.
And they're both kind of flatlands there, which means that these are the places where the apples and the pears were growing a long time ago. And so it's really the produce area. It's good if you got apples and pears there before.
Absolutely.
And that was exactly what the San Giacomos were growing before they planted their first grapes in the late 1960s. And we got to give a little credit to, the family just in general for everything that they've done for us to learn about the Wente clone. And what I love about this, especially that kind of almost Carneros kind of thing that's going on in here, it's got that little bit of lemon in there, but it's got those tree fruits.
Yep.
And it's nice and crisp. It's super duper clean, but it's just, it's got such a good lingering finish that I kind of give a little bit more credit to that Roberts Road a little bit more. It's how it kind of fills it out a lot more. But man, this is a beautiful, beautiful wine.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that, sometimes, those juxtapositions are what make wine special, right? You've got those different representations of the fruit. The Roberts Road, just that minerality, that salinity, a little bit it's just another aspect to add another layer of complexity.
Yeah. It's interesting. You've worked with Gap's Crown before, and that is another vineyard that's really just right above Gap's Crown, or Roberts Road Vineyard, and it's really right there. I mean, you're looking right at each other. This one is on the valley floor, but it seems to linger. That fog lingers there a little bit more. I always like it just a teeny bit more than the other ones. The other ones seem to be big. This one is so balanced. The whole wine is balanced, and the acid is fantastic.
Thank you. I agree. I think it's a beautiful site. It's cool down there. That you're kind of in the heart of the Petaluma Gap there, or maybe the northern offshoot of it, and that wind, that fog, just kind of settles in there. And this takes a while to get right. It's one of the last things. We get half of it's pretty early on the Sonoma side, and half of it weeks and weeks later.
Yeah, look, from a customer feedback standpoint, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
They, when you say Chardonnay, they immediately sort of have a reaction, whether it's good or bad.
Big buttery,
and I don't need a big buttery.
Yeah.
And I was like, just try this.
Yeah.
And then they see it, and it's complexity without being overbearing, and that's pretty much style across these wines. I think Ryan's really good at. Let's have a lot going on, but we want people who love wine, who are really avid drinkers, to appreciate it. At the same time, we want people that are fairly new to wine to really enjoy it. And the only way to do that is to really keep it from being so powerful, so overbearing. And frankly, I like to be able to taste everything going on and not just get tannins or not just get oak.
Me too.
So, yeah.
They're food wines.
They are food wines. And I will say this. The last time I was up here, I was with you. It was Mardi Gras. And we went down to the parish down in Healdsburg. And we had some fun. And believe me, this is not New Orleans, you guys, as you can see in the back here. But it felt like it that night.
It was the parish does that party with the elephant in the room, and then of course we have our wine there. It is just
people that I know very well in this industry look like they were from New Orleans. I mean, they had beads all over them. They were crazy. It was a wacky night. But we were having crawdads. We were having po' boys. We were having everything. It was just an amazing evening. But I mean, just this type of cuisine. I mean, what would you pair with this? What do you like the most with this Chardonnay these days?
I'd like to know what Ryan likes, but I'll tell you what.
Go for it.
So there's a New Orleans dish called Trout Almondine.
Okay.
And it's
Trout
just,
Almondine.
And it's just it's got a lot of butter and a lot of it's a big you put a big buttery Chardonnay, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
The minerality just really works with the acid, works with it. But really, I mean, New Orleans, we fry a lot, and I'm sorry, but I love my seafood. But again, it just this wine really works well with even a fried shrimp dish. Just something
that's amazing.
That's gonna pair well with, especially seafood, obviously. So
I agree. I mean, I think seafood's classic, and whether you grill it, you fry it, you mix it all in with a bunch of other things. I think Chardonnay is a great pairing.
Yeah, I would do seafood with this too. I mean, I would also roasted chicken would be a really nice one, but I'd have some nice herbs on there, light herbs, not go too heavy, but just a roasted chicken would be really complemented by this. It's really beautiful, and the tanginess and the acid and the dryness, the salinity on the finish is brilliant. The bigger rounder part of it comes from that Wente clone, in more of the Sonoma Valley part of Carneros, whereas the rest of it is all about Petaluma Gap. And you and I did a great seminar in Petaluma Gap. And remember, I named that appellation a long time ago, more than 20 years ago. I named it when I wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle. And it finally became an appellation, an AVA, American Viticultural Area, in 2017. And we had done a seminar maybe the year before that on why it needed to be an AVA.
Stating our case, and thank you for all the work that you've done did to get that. I mean, I think it is a sense of place. The AVA is now, thriving and
it's a big deal now.
Very popular.
Very popular. Getting big money at the auctions too. Like we just had one for the Sonoma County Vintners, those little auction lots went big for Petaluma Gap. Same thing with Dry Creek. Now we're talking Dry Creek. So this is the Dry Creek Zinfandel from Flambeaux. You got it right here. Beautiful bottle. Once again, the wonderful label you've got right there. Fantastic stuff. This is Dry Creek. When you first came here, really what impressed you about Dry Creek? What were you thinking when you came here?
Well, okay, obviously, visually, aesthetically, it's amazing.
It is.
It's a 2-mile by 16-mile AVA, all enclosed, so you just feel tucked away. You feel like you're in your own little world. It is beautiful. But what I learned quickly was that they make really great wines here. From New Orleans, we are Cab drinkers. We are Chardonnay drinkers. We have a real French heritage. I didn't know a lot about Zen, and I actually didn't think much of it because I didn't know anything about it. Came here, and I realized very quickly that Zinfandel is beautiful, and it can be made to be a really lovely wine. It doesn't have to be big and overpowering. Sometimes it is, and that's okay. There's a place for that. But I think when Ryan and I talked about Zen, I really expressed that I wanted it to work with our food, and I wanted it to be elegant, to be complex, and I think he just nailed it. I think this property helps. Yeah. There's a lot of factors here that make it special, but
I mean, I think one of the great things about Dry Creek too is you have, down on the valley floor, it's a little bit warmer. Up in these hills, we're kind of sort of northeast facing here, so we get a lot of red fruit on the Cab and the Zin. So these are wines that are not big, overpowering. It is mountain fruit, so you do get the complexity that mountain fruit gives you. But the folk, I was like, for years we were selling this fruit, and I was like, Art, come on, let's do it. Let's make our own Zin. Like, we can do this and make something special, because this version of Zinfandel, it's a little bit brighter. I mean, I think that's true for all the wines that I make. I like to have them a little bit more acid driven, a little bit more red fruit, a little bit livelier on the palate. Helps them age, and it helps them pair with food.
Dogs are about to go nuts.
Dogs are going to go nuts, you guys. Just be warned.
Watch, it's happening.
But, what I love, Dry Creek to me is the kind of an epicenter of Zinfandel culture. And it's mainly the valley floor, which is really interesting. You get very few vineyards up here, like the Maple Vineyard and a few others that are a little bit lifted up. But, this is old farming land. And what happened before they built the dam here... Go get him.
Not a small dog, in case you can't see.
Yeah, he's a big boy. But what I've always loved about it is the spicy elements about this. And from a Cajun, like a person that eats Cajun food like you, and I think about allspice, when I get into this, like almost Jamaican jerk chicken and things like that I get really into this. I love that black pepper in here. You guys have nailed that. That is a key to this wine. The blackberries are there, the dark cherry, all of these things are in this wine, but there's just a personality thing, and it's got this hillside where these wines have a nice view, you guys. It's not the situation with those on the valley floor. How long ago were these vines planted?
I think there's some 30-plus year vines. Yeah, we have some younger vines there as well.
So, it's a kind of a mix. Zinfandel is... it's all been planted about 30 years ago. The Cabernet was grafted over on the same rootstock back, right around about 10, 12 years ago. So,
well, I'm definitely excited about Cabernet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But really, for just Dry Creek Valley, this is like the grape that was the heritage here, is Zinfandel. Yeah. And you have the great producers like Raffinelli and Dry Creek Vineyard and others that produce and have put this, and Null, let's not forget Null. We love Null. Put this grape on the map. This was something that was used for jug wine in the old days, and then it became something of note, especially in the 90s with our kind of big R's, Ridge, Ravenswood, and Wrenwood, and Rosenbloom, and all those kinds of producers. But when you find a hillside vineyard like this, I just think that this is such a unique wine right here.
I think it's special. And look, the food that we like to eat in New Orleans, gumbo, jambalaya, spicy foods. It goes with anything with a lot of flavor. But we do a gumbo, a homemade gumbo, and Zinfandel pairing at the Region, the wine bar in Sebastopol, and people have just come to love it. Like of course, they love the gumbo, but they just work so well together. So it's a really great pairing, and this is definitely our go-to for food. And it has such a crazy range. Yeah. Also a good party wine because. You have your Pinot drinkers and your Cab drinkers. They don't necessarily like each other's stuff. Put the Zin in the middle, and they gravitate.
Well, I think that's a big thing about the way that Ryan made this is it's got high acid once again. So people that really appreciate Pinot Noir and these kinds of grapes can really appreciate it. It's not porty. This is not a big powerhouse of Zinfandel. This has got elegance and sophistication, but it's also got that tanginess that can really go with these spicy foods.
And it's built to age a little bit as well. Zinfandel isn't always known to be the most age-worthy of wines, but I want this wine to be able to do that. And you keep a little bit of that acidity, you keep that freshness, and it will it'll give this extra years in the bottle to be able to, get some of those secondary characteristics and some of those, a little bit leathery and earthier notes to come out, if that's how you like to drink your wine.
It's a 2020. It tastes like it was just bottled yesterday. That's how fresh it is. It's amazing. So the last wine we're going to taste is Cabernet Sauvignon. There are obviously Cabernet grapes on this vineyard right here, just kind of behind us, right? Just on the other side there. But this is actually coming from Alexander Valley, or the fruit is. And I love this. This is one of those stories about Ryan, finding these sources. It's a really key thing. Medlock Ames is a great winery. If you've ever been to Alexander Valley, please, and if you haven't, just please go visit them. It is a great, great place. Oh, thank you. It is a great winery, and you got to work there. You got to go source some fruit from here, pick up grapes at that vineyard.
Yeah.
Why, tell us a little bit, because this is a little bit almost like a vineyard designate in many ways, so Toby Lane.
It is,
I'd never heard about it until I really started tasting this wine. So tell us a little bit about that little site.
Yeah, so in 2014 when we got our start, I was over at Medlock Ames, so we were, the estate ranch out there, sourcing fruit from our ranch. We also had a neighbor out there, Toby Lane, which was just across the street from us. And so we're, high elevation, Chalk Hill, back of Chalk Hill, sort of Alexander Valley side, and it's mountain fruit. It is, it's way you would have no idea where you were if you set foot on there. You're surrounded by, preserves and hills, and what I loved about that fruit, we were making that wine as well, and you just got such depth and complexity out of it. You got the tannin profile was, but it wasn't overblown. Like when you get into the mountain fruit, you can still preserve some of that minerality, some of that freshness, and so that's what I loved about those grapes. And so when we were looking to source some fruit from somewhere outside of Dry Creek, that was initially where I went back to and said, let's it actually kind of matches stylistically what we're trying to do out here. They're very different wines, but stylistically we like to be in sort of mountain fruit, stuff that shows the sort of the pretty side of these wines, and a little bit more minerality, a little bit more acid, Toby Lane made tons of sense, and I have a history with them, and we love it.
It's amazing. It just has such depth to it. It's a very elegant, sophisticated wine, but the tannins are super balanced, and that's what I love so much about it. You're tasting true Cabernet character, and that's what makes the difference. You want to taste that. You don't want the winemaker, like all these great barrels that they have. You're not paying for the barrels. You're paying for a great wine. And this really, to me, I think you gave it nuances with those barrels, but that's you've let this vineyard speak.
Yeah, not a ton of new oak. We were probably 60%, so it's for Cabernet not that high. We kind of talk about, when we talk about the Cabernets, it's more Bordeaux in style than it is California. We're going to get the ripeness from California, of course, but the goal is to have a little bit more of that minerality, that sort of elegance that Bordeaux kind of can give you, and again, it's fully a California wine, but just leaning a little bit that way, a little bit of a nod, a hat tip to Bordeaux.
No, I agree. I think I've always just loved the minerality of Bordeaux, right?
Yeah.
Just tasting the earth. Like, I want to taste the dirt. I mean, people laugh at me, but I just, and our soil here is so pretty. Whether it's Toby Lane or here, I mean, here we have a really pretty soil, but Toby Lane is just that altitude, and I don't know. Toby Lane has officially earned its vineyard designate status, right? We've worked with it enough that, Ryan, this year we're actually giving it the vineyard designation.
You heard it here first.
You did.
It's really in that kind of canyon too that's kind of leading to Knights Valley, which is really interesting, because when you look at Alexander Valley, it's really more north-south. Here in Dry Creek Valley, we're actually southeast to northwest, so it's going this way, whereas that one's a big piece of, it's a big piece of land going this way, but there's a hillside there, and you're exactly right. The Chalk Hill part is part of the Mayacamas, but it's a little wing of it that comes out. This is on the inside of that wing, so it's looking kind of more at Mount St. Helena.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and it's right where, if you were to start in Napa and start in Sonoma and just like drive your way up both valleys, they actually meet up in the town of Healdsburg. And so this Toby Lane is on that Chalk Hill, kind of is that spot where on the other side of Chalk Hill, then they meet. And so we're kind of right in that crux there. And so it's warm enough for Cabernet. I mean, there's, just down the hill, they're growing some Pinot Noir. So it's just like this. Again, we're talking about, like, that's what I love about the Chardonnay, this sort of confluence of different flavors. We've got the cool, you're a little bit higher up, so it's not quite as warm, but it's mountainous, and so you get these tougher skins. So all of those factors combine to make a really unique, interesting wine.
One thing I love about Ryan, I know him very well for making Pinot Noir, and it's very hard for Cabernet producers to make Pinot Noir. He's a Pinot Noir producer that can make goddamn good Cabernet, and it's those little touches, that little attention to detail. Cabernet's not the hardest grape to grow or to even work with. It's got thick skins. It's like pretty good, but it's really about the site that it's at, and I think you've really nailed it here with the site that's very, very special. We taste the unique characteristics of that site here, but you're right about the gravelly soils and all those things. This is kind of like that pushed up part of that little river part that cut that little canyon in there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's just how well this tastes. And, you're going to be releasing a new one from here, from the mountainside. I mean, how's the difference there? What does it taste like here?
So I would say, this, you get a little bit darker fruit from this. It's, probably a little bit warmer in the Toby Lane spot. Whereas here, off this property, a little bit more red, a little bit brighter even. We talk about earth and sort of gravel and minerality, and I think that's a little bit more what this is. You get a little bit more red fruit off of this site, but you still get those components with it.
Really nice notes. So there's a licorice note in here, but it's also so much fruit. This plum, cherry, definitely that kind of briary blackberry. Just it's mountainside too.
Yeah.
It's got that minerality that's just mountain minerals, You just can't...
It's lick a rock,
Lick a rock. Go lick a rock, you guys. I want to make a shirt like that. Yeah. In Yosemite, they have go climb a rock. Go lick a rock.
There you go.
Awesome wines, you guys. This has been a great experience. Flambeaux, to me, is one of the great boutique wineries of Sonoma County. They might be younger than 10 years. They turn 10 years old next year. But the fact is, what they're doing already is amazing. It's about great grapes. We know that. They know that. And I love your culinary part that you bring here. And I will go to Mardi Gras parties with you anytime. I will.
No, every year. We'll make it a tradition.
Good. I'm in. I'm in, you guys. But, you also play a major role here. You're on the board for the wine growers of Dry Creek Valley. We're going to be celebrating the 40-year anniversary of this amazing AVA.
Excited about that.
In just a few weeks. And I'm very excited about leading that one. You're going to be on my panel. And we're going to be talking about the one that comes from this vineyard right here, the Cabernet, that is.
Chris wanted the perspective of somebody who didn't know anything.
Yeah.
On the panel, so that was good.
I want the Maverick, the new Maverick on the.
You got the new guy.
I want the new guy, and he's great. Art and his family, the Murrays, it's the real deal here, you guys. So you can find Flambeaux Wines at flambeaux.com.
Flambeauwine.com.
Yeah. And I just find it because I know this guy, and I try to drink it as much as possible. This is wonderful wine, amazing with food. And thank you for joining us once again for this episode of The Varietal Show. Cheers!
Cheers! Cheers!